Blasphemous remarks by Hindu politician cause diplomatic troubles for India. On June 5th, a BJP national spokesperson, Nupur Sharma, and BJP Delhi media head, Naveen Kumar Jindal, were suspended from the party's membership due to offensive comments, comments that were found to be offensive to many Muslims in India. Sharma mocked Barak, the flying donkey that carried the Prophet Muhammad, the Quran for describing the world as flat, and pointed out that Muhammad's wife Aisha was 9 years old at the time of consummation. Jindal was expelled for a tweet that also allegedly insulted the Prophet. I haven't seen the tweet because it was like deleted. The words of these now former BJP members stirred an international backlash from the Muslim world and a diplomatic crisis for India. The state of Qatar called on the Indian government to immediately condemn these remarks and demanded a public apology to all Muslims. Superstores in Kuwait removed Indian products from their shelves. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the second largest intergovernmental organization globally after the United Nations, with a 57-nation membership, also added to the condemnation. Over a dozen countries have summoned their Indian diplomatic representation in their nation and admonished them for the comment. And it went so far that Al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent released a letter warning of self-explosions. I'm using coded language for YouTube.
Self-boom boom.
What?
Self-boom
Yeah,
boom.
self-boom boom. They warned and threatened self-boom boom in Delhi, Mumbai, Uttar Pradesh, and Gujarat to, quote, fight for the honor of the Prophet, according to the Indian Express. Police have booked both Sharma and Jindal for their comments, and they face charges of, quote, inciting people on divisive lines. Okay, so...
Okay.
Like, there is so much to get... I need, like, a moment to speak to camera. Like, there is so much to get into here. Like, I know I'm going to miss stuff, but there's so much that this snowballed into, like, I don't even know where to start. So, obviously, we were not here last week because I was having surgery. So, I first saw this news kind of come onto my radar because this BJP spokeswoman made these comments. So, let me give you more context for that first. So, what happened is that she was on like nightly television in India on the Times Now channel, which is one of the most watched channels in India. And they were having a discussion about, this is a larger story about how there's all this controversy right now about if this historical site is a fountain or if it's in fact a Shiva Lingam. And if it's a Shiva Lingam, like, do the Hindus basically get to take ownership of it, even though sometimes these things are found within mosques, you know, so it's like almost it's like a debate over like kind of Hindu encroachment into Muslim spaces in many cases. There's other details, but that's like a very broad summary. Anyways, so apparently on this news channel or in this program, someone like insulted the Shiva Lingam, or this spokesperson was responding to the general insult to the Shiva Lingam. And she's like, oh, well, if you can say these things, then I can also poke you back. I can say things like, well, and then she proceeded to say it not in English, so I can't give a verbatim quote, right? But yeah, basically talking about how stupid it is that there is Barak, the flying donkey, like mocking the Quran for promoting flat earth. And of course, talking about the questionable attraction, to say the very least, of the Prophet Muhammad to his extremely underage wife, Aisha. And so this is what first caught my attention. This was big news, and we were going to cover this anyways. And then throughout the following 2 weeks, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. Like, first there was kind of there was domestic outrage because a very famous fact checker, his name was Mohammed Zubair, he posted a clip of this speech, or not the speech, but a clip of the news segment to his Twitter. And he has a huge audience. And this clip got millions of views. And the caption was something along the lines of like, this is the kind of like bigoted hate speech that is allowed to just become a normal part of Indian televised news, like kind of trying to talk about the climate of in the fever pitch of the type of inflammatory and inciting speech that was just on Indian news channels 24/7. And so that's what amplified this incident. And then it just got crazy from there. This is when suddenly other nations started to notice. Qatar has taken one of the most major stances against India. This is all of the Persian Gulf nations have come out against this. And this is a huge problem because the Persian Gulf countries, I believe, represent a majority of how India actually gets its oil and energy. And not to mention the fact that I think it was with UAE and Qatar alone, India has like a $9 billion relationship within the past, or like trade, $9 billion worth of trade, like within the past 2 years alone. Like these are extremely important economic and international partners. And so this, like I said, there's been international calls to boycott Indian goods. I've seen a lot of stuff floating around social media about people like Arabs saying that they just fired their Indian worker, their Indian overseas worker simply from being Indian. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, like it gets bad. Okay. Let me take a moment to pause and say that like everyone in this story is acting trashy. Like everyone is acting trashy. Like it's ridiculous. I could tear every side of this story like a new asshole. Okay, so I need to lay out more facts before I can start tearing into people. But there's so much to get into. I'm like so overwhelmed. Okay. So not only this happened, wait, let me pause and collect my thoughts. So there was Qatar, calls for boycott. And then the diplomatic summons started coming in. So I believe that there have been 21 countries that have summoned the Indian diplomatic presence in their nation. They've summoned that presence to like basically answer for this comment, like to face the consequences for this comment. Not only that, but like I said, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which has a 57 nation membership, also added to the condemnation. I read this article in the Time, and it was so snarky. It was basically saying if you have managed to execute something spectacular and once in a lifetime, when all of these Gulf countries are lecturing you about religious tolerance. It's like, what have you managed to pull off to be able to get that kind of reaction from, these people with not the best track record? I'm gonna pause for right there before I just keep going off. Armin, what is your initial reaction to all of this stuff?
My initial reaction is that where is this unity among these? First of all, it's not just Arab countries, because Iran is also joining them, right? But where is all this condemnation and unity when we need them to call out the human rights violations of the CCP against Chinese Muslims, and also actually in India, when actual oppression and actual discrimination is happening against Muslims? This is what you pick? This is when you want tolerance? When people are just stating facts about your religion? Like you want to protect Muhammad's flying donkey instead of protecting actual Muslims. Like, they could be lynching Muslims in India, and these people don't give a crap. But when somebody says something about Muhammad's flying donkey, that's when you lose your mind. Like, this is, you know, this is why, oh yeah, be tolerant, be tolerant. This is the type of tolerance you want? Ideas over people. And I don't get, like, all the other people like that who are not involved in the story, like liberals and leftists and so other people are like, oh yeah, this is like, you know, intolerant, you know, we need to be accepting of each other. Like, where were all these people when actual Muslims were being attacked? Muslim ideas, Islamic ideas matter to you than Muslim bodies? Like, I don't understand. Like, what are people's priorities? And again, this is not just about, like, I know we're making fun of like Hindus and Muslims here, okay? Because like, look, oh my God, look at their priorities. But atheists as well, like people who are not even religious. They're like, oh my God, she's being intolerant. She was being a bigot before. This is not an example of her bigotry, okay? Like, when she was actually being bigoted, none of you give a crap. But now when she's talking about Muhammad is the one that you want to protect?
Yes.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, so that's Armin. Yes, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So this is one so how I said everyone is acting trashy. That's exactly what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. Like, if you go into the show notes for this story, you'll see that I have something to show for this that like perfectly demonstrates what you're saying. Yeah, like more people care about insult to the Prophet Muhammad than the systematic oppression and brutalization of Indian minorities, particularly Indian Muslims. And here is a perfect example of this. I pulled this image from Al Jazeera. This is from the recent protests. I'm not exactly sure where this photo was taken. Okay, but it shows two men holding a sign and it says, kill us, but don't dare say anything about our beloved Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad is our pride. Like, I didn't think that anyone would make it this obvious. This is insane to me. Literally saying, kill us, but don't say anything about Prophet Muhammad. And holding this up as something to be proud of. Like, this goes to show that this is a global sentiment that people have. And it was so viscerally demonstrated through this whole fiasco. It's outrageous. It's and this comes from this comes from people on so many different levels. So there is a Muslim figure in America who's very famous and very influential. His name is Omar Suleiman. Armin, you're familiar with Omar Suleiman, right?
I have to see faces to remember who people are. I'm not good.
Okay, you know who he is. Trust me, you do. So he wrote this piece in religionnews.com that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I have to read a quote from it.
The guy who did the shirky thing with the guy in charge of, what was the organization? Was it
Yaqeen Institute?
Yaqeen Institution. See, I have to see their faces. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a quote from what he wrote about this incident, because I figured, oh, maybe the commentary would be a little bit different from, an American Muslim scholar. Okay, well, let's see. Quote, somehow all that changed this past week when Nupur Sharma, the BJP's national spokesperson, crudely insulted the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, on Indian national TV. Qatar quickly issued condemnation, followed by Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, and many other Muslim countries, several of which overcame long and bitter disputes with one another to confront a global superpower. The solidarity is refreshing and long overdue.
Wait, say that again. He's like, this reaction was long overdue. He's
Qatar
like encouraging.
quickly issued a condemnation, followed by Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, and many other Muslim nations, several of which overcame long and bitter disputes with one another to confront a global superpower. The solidarity is refreshing and long overdue.
You know what? Okay. You know what? You guys are being ridiculous over Muhammad. Okay, I can't help. That's what you do. But how about this? How about instead of like I want to do a small ask. Okay, I'm not going to ask you to not get so butthurt over Muhammad's flying donkey. Okay, and over the fact that we're pointing out that like you're getting offended over the fact that we're pointing out that Muhammad abused a child, but you don't care about the okay, you know what? These
We're just pointing out the fact that the Quran teaches.
We're just pointing out your religion. We're just reading out like what's in your religion. Like we're like, are you denying that that's in your religion? Okay, so mere pointing to facts about your religion gets you all united, and you're so proud of this unity. Okay, how about instead of like, you know, we want you to be adults and not get so butthurt over these things, but that I know that's too much of an ask. How about now that you have practiced this level of unity over condemning something, we ask you to also do it for calling out China, for calling out the CCP. Is that possible? Like you see, you guys are able to agree on something and, you know, unite over fighting this great evil of a lady speaking about your prophet. Okay, do the same thing and get united over the CCP. Is that too much of an ask? Do you think that's too much of an ask, Susie?
Apparently. Okay, here's a really good quote. So this is from the article that was published in the Times. Quote, with Modi's back-to-back election victories, the party has doubled down on its majoritarian project. From calls for genocide and anti-Muslim pop to dog whistling by television anchors and name-calling by BJP leaders, the hate speech is everywhere. The party incentivizes hate and those with the talent of spreading it, which shows how Sharma and Jindal rose in the organization. It takes considerable talent to be called, quote-unquote, fanatics by Afghanistan's Taliban government. The Taliban called these offending spokespeople fanatics. High on propaganda about Modi's supposed invincibility and India's rise to even greater heights under his steely guidance, his supporters cannot fathom why the mighty Modi has to sacrifice his lieutenants to please a bunch of Muslim countries. Tweets demanding a war on Qatar and its economic boycott have gone viral. Hashtags like #shame on BJP have been trending in recent days, with the party's own supporters breathing fire at what they see as Modi's cowardice. So that's the other really interesting angle of this is seeing the BJP freaking not even bend the knee, like full, like dive into the kowtow, like to try to calm the situation down. And then their supporters back home are going like, what the hell? You guys are supposed to be our like lions of Hinduism. Like, wait, so this is the meme that I posted. I wanted to put in the article because I feel like this meme is so true. So, for those who are listening, I will describe the meme. So the meme it says BJP in front of Indian Muslims, and it's like the old guy from Squid Games, and he's standing there looking all cocky, like, yeah. And then it's like BJP in front of Arabs, and it's the old man sitting, hugging his knees, just looking like a literal shell of a human being. PK is saying it's the best meme. Yeah, no, there are just so many. There's so many different aspects to this news that I still could get into. So here's a little bit more. The expectations of Modi's admirers are divorced from India's economic and strategic compulsions. The 6 Persian Gulf countries, namely Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, alone account for 15% of India's global trade, supply a third of its fuel needs, and employ 9 million Indians whose wires home accounts. They account for 65% of India's annual remittances of more than 80 billion. So this is an extremely important relationship for them to maintain on the international stage, and this has just like really caused a lot of damage. There was even commentary from Al-Azhar University. Egypt's Al-Azhar Mosque called the BJP spokesperson's remark, the quote-unquote, the real terrorism, capable of plunging the world into deadly wars.
We're saying terrorism because YouTube is sensitive, but yeah, go on.
The Grand Mufti of Oman termed the BJP's quote-unquote obscene rudeness towards Islam as a form of war and launched a boycott of Indian goods.
By the way, we got a new member, Vish.
Oh my goodness. Vishwa Kumar,
Kumar.
thank you for becoming a member. Welcome to Satan's Minions.
By the way, I think this is what happens when you try to feed the radicals as a way to become more popular, right? Because the radicals will never have enough radicalism, right? So Modi is like, guys, this is like, we can't do this internet. You know, when it's okay. So what Modi has to tell the Hindutvas, okay, the Hindutva people is like, I know you guys, you know, I know, I don't want to say it because YouTube might think I'm saying it, okay? I know we're against Muslims, okay? But this is, we own these Muslims. These Muslims are Indian citizens, so we could get away with doing whatever we want with them, okay? Nobody can come at us, okay? But these Muslims, these other Muslims, right? They're not. They are. We kind of need them. This is international relationships and all that, right?
We're beholden to them.
Yeah, India is trying to become a major trading power, and a superpower, a political power across the world. And these are major countries. We cannot treat these Muslims the way we treat our Muslims. You have to understand, like, can you keep your radicalism within the borders? I'll protect you if you go after our Muslims, but not these other Muslims. Thank you very much. So, no, but when this is what happens when you feed into radicalism, eventually it comes and eats you. Hey, Modi is learning what the Saudis learned, okay? Because the Saudis, like, fed into radicalism. They started spreading Wahhabism everywhere. And then now Al-Qaeda and ISIS is coming after them. And like, oh, crap. Actually, like, it's never going to be, like, they're not going to, at some point, they're going to out-radical you, right? So Modi is like, actually, Imran Khan has also realized. Imran Khan, Modi, the House of Saud, they're all realizing that if you feed radicals, the radicals will eventually come after you and out-radical you. So, yeah, this is what you get.
Yeah, I think, oh my gosh. I mean, it just really goes to show, like, okay, so now all of a sudden party leadership or the main, the party line is, oh, this was fringe. This was fringe. This was fringe. This was a national spokesperson of the party, right? Like, if that's fringe, then watch the rhetoric, then every spokesperson from the BJP is fringe. Who's fringe anymore? And I would like, okay, here's some real tea. Okay. We need to talk about what prompted this action and compare priorities. Okay, for a quick second. Let us think back to earlier. It actually the very end of last year, you know? Okay, many of you will remember the infamous hate speeches calling openly for genocide against Indian Muslims in Haridwar and New Delhi. And you will remember that there were party officials at these events seen either supporting these events. They were very obviously involved, and like their attendance was advertised, right? So the stamp of approval is there. And this was met with like complete silence from the party. Like calling for the mass murder of your own citizens. Okay? No punishment from the party. No punishment from the party. But this lady goes on TV and says this stuff about Prophet Muhammad, and enough Muslim nations come after them, and they are suddenly issuing directives to all of their representatives saying, don't talk about religion. You have to be very careful about what you say. We completely oppose the insulting of any religious figures. Like, they're shaking in their boots. They actually expelled people from the party. They diminished them in their role over comments about a dude that died hundreds and hundreds of years ago, right?
Yeah.
But for calling for violence against your fellow citizens, many of which you're supposed to be a legislator or representing, like, nothing.
Yeah. By the way, this is not just Muslim Islamic politicians that are hypocrites about not calling out what actually matters, right? If you look at, like, on YouTube, for example, there's a lot more reactions to this from, like, as Muslim YouTubers than actual, calls for genocide or actual real harm against Muslims, or even like putting, I don't know, more than 1 million Muslims in concentration camps. Okay. I mean, it does get a reaction, but the reaction to something like this is so much more, right? I just don't understand, like, where were you? Where are you guys when we actually need you? I know.
Within the past 2 weeks, there was a young Muslim man that was tortured by the police. I don't even know if I can describe how he was tortured because it's so graphic. But basically,
by the way,
I can't. I don't even know if I should get into it, but it's so bad. No one,
is that
like,
one of our
who's
news?
marching for him? Where are the hundreds and hundreds of people marching for this man who now has seizures because of how he was tortured with electricity? Like, nowhere. Like, it's ridiculous.
Can we cover that?
I thought about covering it, but there's not, so far I haven't found like enough to fit into like a whole story. So I just wanted to like fit it in here. But just for comparison's sake, like, where, I don't know, it drives me crazy. And in terms of, okay, so let's back up for a second about this woman. That most of the vitriol that's being directed is against the woman who was on TV, less so with the media guy who tweeted other things. Like, the violence that's being directed towards her is also abhorrent. It's really, really bad. It's really, really bad. Her life is in danger. Like, let's be clear. And I can only imagine like the sheer level of toxicity that she's going through right now, because I've had to go through that kind of thing, but like not on the level that she's going through. It must be horrific. So she doesn't deserve to be threatened like that. She doesn't deserve to I know exactly what it's like. This severely graphic nature of the threats of the people are being directed towards you and your own family. It's horrible. It's traumatizing. Do I think that it was super inappropriate for her to do that on TV? Like, yeah, I don't think that's, I mean, obviously I don't have a problem with like blasphemy against Islam, but do I think that it's like responsible for a spokesperson of a party to go on TV and say that kind of thing? Like, no, that's not how you should act.
What was he? No, wait. Was she doing that as a politician or as a
yes.
in her? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, okay. As much as I agree with the things that she said at that point, I think like maybe politicians should not talk about religion.
It's, I mean, even if you were like, oh, if politicians should or should not even talk about religion at all, like, it's just not smart from a political perspective to act in that way. From like an etiquette perspective, from a backlash perspective, it's, and I also have a issue with her because these comments are coming out of a genuine wish to denigrate a specific community. Like, when I engage in this kind of like blasphemous behavior, like, for me, it's from a position of like wanting to promote like free expression and challenge norms and challenge taboos. But this was like genuinely meant to insult and denigrate a community. Like, she says it, she basically said so too. She was like, I would like, you're going to be insulting something I hold dear, like I'm going to do the same. Like, it's not professional, one. Two, she has a history of bigotry as well, so like I'm not too fond of her anyways. But just also, like, as a woman who's gone through this kind of thing, like, I know how horrific like that experience can be.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so, okay, here's the thing. This news has evolved even further. Like, there have been, there's been a lot of violence that's happened across India because of this, but that was so large that, like, we just had to get this part out first, and we're going to talk about some of the violence that happened. Like, people are dying over this at this point. But we're going to talk about that next week.
Oh, and so this story continues.
Oh, this story continues in a big way. Like, there have been
Oh my
children
God.
that have been killed over this.
Jesus, seriously?
Yeah, there was a 14-year-old that was shot, like today or yesterday.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep it. Okay. Oh my God. Jesus, I don't even know how to react to
Yeah.
that right now.
So, needless to say, we are not done talking about this topic. This will continue to come up because the implications of this are huge, and I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. I think that once this kind of specter of the insult of the prophet disappears, then all of these countries will go back to not caring at all about Indian Muslims. They'll go back to their commerce with India. They won't care at all about, like, yeah. So,
All right. Yeah. Well, this will continue. We'll continue covering this in next week.
Atheist Republic needs your help. We have been the target of many legal attacks by Hindu nationalists ever since our founder, Armin Navabi, blasphemed against Hindu deities. We have retained legal counsel to help us defend our access to our community in India. We have started a fundraiser that will help us afford to tackle many legal issues, including judicial harassment and censorship. Whatever you can contribute will go a long ways in helping us in this fight. Link in the description below.